Greetings and welcome back to Homebrew. Today we're covering prepping for Session 1 of the Call of the Hunger campaign. If you're looking for more information on preparing for a campaign as a DM, I strongly recommend that you take a look at our prep session for the full campaign as we get ready for our Session 1. Because there's a lot of background stuff that you need to do, and if you're curious here, there might be some information that might be leaping across for you, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that if some of this stuff doesn't make sense, it's because it's supposed to be after the other videos. So, anyways, what do we need to do for our first episode of the Call of the Hunger, or our first session for our players? Well, first of all, is we need to have some good material for them to be looking at while we play online, right? So I just made a couple quick backdrops here. We got the Call of the Hunger. This is a forest setting. The players already know that, so that's not a big giveaway, but they start off in the middle of a city. So while we're chatting, it's good for them to have something to look at. This is something I pulled offline for free copyright stuff, and so this is a good a good image of what Lemoore kind of looks like. It's not quite right, but it gives them the general feel. So while we're discussing about the background and what they're doing in the streets, this is just a good thing for them to look at. Okay, so from here, what do we need? Well, we need to figure out what they're doing on session 1, right? So we got to get them all together. That's the main purpose. And then get them out of town. So that's our first kind of arc. Get the players together, get them out of town. Pretty simple. We already discussed a little bit on where the characters are going to meet. They're going to meet with the informant, who's going to give them their reasons why they need to work together for the major story arc moving forward. So in order to do that, we made a couple of notes here. So we got our Call of the Hunger campaign notes here. I'll see that we're on stage 1. Stage 1. What's the whole purpose? Meet and flee Lemoore. All right. So what I did is really getting the first couple scenes is the most important thing. So I tried to figure out what order of events would make the most sense for making the characters meet up with Wallaby to get him in motion to come back and start grabbing all the characters together. So what I did is I made an off scene, characters who've already met Wallaby, and what I need to remember that I told the players in their backstories. And then on scene. So this is where we actually start. This is the very first information that we're going to start feeding our players live for the first session. Okay. So Wretch goes and he meets Wallaby. Then he leaves. Then Ilya, much later, meets up with Wallaby the same day as our starting session starts. And as he leaves, he bumps shoulders with Emery. Emery goes in, talks to Wallaby, and we go from there. So now we have everyone meeting up with him. Emery is told to go find Wretch because she's sick and Wretch can heal it. So now we got a reason for them to meet up. And this is something that I built into the backstory of Emery intentionally to make sure that when we got here, she would have a reason to meet up with Wretch. Wretch doesn't have any money, so he can't get out of town either because Wallaby was going to charge him. So now he has a way of getting money and a vested interest in why he needs to interact with Emery. Perfect. So Emery goes, meets up with Wallaby. He says, Emery, go find Wretch. He can heal you. Arc check. Emery's sidekick basically says, hey, I'm going to go check in on something else. We've got a good excuse to split them up. He goes off. He disappears. Wallaby says he's dead because Wallaby goes and checks in on him for the reasons that we discussed in our previous video on the story arc of the whole campaign. He comes back and says, we gotta go right now. Emery shows up, says, hey, I found Wretch and he took care of me. And then he goes, Wallaby goes, hey, grab that dude. I'm gonna help him get out of town. I can help you get to where you need to go. See that character G, because he's already going to go to Bracken Bastion anyways, which is where G is. And we need more help. In fact, I met this dude who wanted to go to the woods too. Let's go grab him quick and let's loop us all together. That's why I have in Ilya's notes here that Wallaby specifically laughed him out and told him that you will probably die going into the forest alone. Meaning, it's within Ilya's interest to group up with the party to go out there. It's also why Wallaby doesn't want to do this trip alone. So they have a reason to go together, and that's because there's power in numbers, and the woodlands are very dangerous. So now, how do they get out? Well, this is already going to be a fun spot, because I just told wretch that it's very dangerous to try to get out, and only Wallaby knows a way. We've got a very industrial setting, so let's think of some fun ways in which they can get out. I was thinking, jump down a smokestack that's got water cleaning stuff out of the smokestack, and it flushes into an underground cavern that basically gets the gross contaminants out of the area, and then boom, you're out. No one's gonna check that stuff. Now we have to get some hazmat suits. Wallaby knows a guy. He also knows a guy in order to be able to get him up that smokestack, right? We can start lacing in some more stories about Lamore, who owns that smokestack. So we've got some notes here on that as well. So Mastercraft Tectonics owns the smokestack. We have more character interactions in the sense that Wallaby wants to get a smoke screen between them and the Onyx, so he's going to go talk to the local gang of Tekeknu and say, hey, can you guys go and, just so you know, your friend, Archek, is dead because of the Onyx. Go start up a problem there, right? And that gives him an opportunity to basically buy them some time, and it also gives like some weird backstory for the other characters on the local lore. So we'll say that Wallaby wants to go meet Vivgeni. Vivgeni is the local leader of the gang of Tekeknu, and they're going to go start a turf war with the Bronze, which are the local Onyx gang. One thing I don't have in here is I didn't actually have a name of the gang that Vivgeni runs, so I'll need to think of something there. And what we do have is a background for Archek. Say that he was a delegate from Paratisium, which is like the homeland or the local city hub, like the major Tekeknu city that's nearby. And because he was a delegate from there, anyone who does something to get justice for him is going to be seen on with good colors or being the good graces of Paratisium. And I decided, you know what? Let's have the gang of Tekeknu, the bug people, in Lamore, which is a shitty place to live. They're all basically exiles from Paratisium, so they want some tickets to be able to go home. So now they've got a reason to get in the way of this stuff. They're going to also be informants on the Ways. The Ways are just caverns below Lamore made by the Tekeknu, the bug people who burrow around underground. So now we've got a little bit more, why does this path exist naturally? How does Wallaby know of this path? And why is it dangerous for other people to get involved with this path? Essentially, the Tekeknu own anything that is from the layer of town known as like the sludge and below. That's all fair game for the Tekeknu to run. That's their domain. So we got some great information there. And we won't be getting out of town before the end of this first session. So what we can do is build in some encounters along the way. I decided, what would be fun? I thought would be fun would be as if there's some really nasty, mutated manticore-like creature living on the top of the smokestack, just breathing in this crap that's coming out of there. So what I did is I made a map, smokestack battle, and it's going to be really hard for the characters to avoid this, right? So a big nasty creature, they're going to have to fight on the top of this. There's chances that the characters get pulled off if they fall into the water. What I decided is, hey, there's going to be some checks here. So Wallaby brought some weird hazmat suits. The guys would need to like take a cinder block, tie it to them, and then jump off down into the smokestack where there's going to be water down at the bottom, like a whole bunch of toxic chemicals. The hazmat suits to keep them safe. But if this creature pulls them in, now they got resilience checks. If they get down to the bottom with the cinder block, if they didn't jump off the cinder block, there's like offshoots that the swirling water could pull them instead. The jet streams could pull them into, which means now they're stuck. They can't see very well and they got to find their way out. So it's very dangerous in that sense. If they jump down to the bottom, they got to do a dex check to untie themselves from the concrete cinder block that's holding on to them. So kind of just like a dangerous thing already, even before we get into the fight, right? So the fight could be, adding to this, we're going to give the Manticore some sort of like acidic vomit spray. I was thinking maybe he could have like some sort of alcoholic fire. Basically alcohols make a blue flame that's really hard to see by the light of day. So he could have some sort of breath that makes it really hard for you to be able to see the area that he affected without passing a perception check. Otherwise, you can just walk into fire. We've got the smoke coming out to cause a screen. It'll be really fun. We also made some generic maps. We got a town center here. This is just in case the characters start picking a fight with people. We've got character tokens at the ready, just to make sure that we can have some sort of fight with a generic city backdrop if characters decide to go and fight Onyx or fight the Tekenu gang or something like that. We also went ahead and made a generic forest with a path, one with just like the random thicket, and then we just started making extra maps for, we know eventually we're going to be in the Thicketlands and in the Canopy and in the feeding grounds of this campaign, so I made up a basic generic map of those areas. We got a basic map of the land once they get out of Lemoore, if they're looking for like a map, not just a battle map. We also got backdrops for the forests, for the cities, as we were talking about before, so we got things to look at while the characters are going about their business. We've got names of the different characters here. Like I said, Vivigeni is a main character that they're going to run into, controlling some of the gangs. We've got our character notes on everyone involved in the campaigns before. Like, let's see here. What was that name of that guy that Emery was working with? Or sorry, that took Emery's family? His name was Rot. And I actually have that in her campaign. So instead of having just like a little one-pager for her, you guys would have seen that I made this whole backstory thing for her character as our previous notes from the previous campaign. So I can take a look at this and just go to the characters on the side of here as well, and then pull any information on what's going on with her stuff from right here. So nice and useful, lots of detailed notes. That's just kind of how I run things. Characters, here we go. Ephemeria, Rot, Oliver, which is her brother, V, Archek, Eridrin, all characters that you guys would have been introduced in the previous miniature campaign, backstory campaign, whatever you want to call it. All right, so what else do we need? So we know how we're going to run immediately when the characters meet. We're going to explain to them the immediacy of the situation. We're going to explain to them what they need to do once they get out of here. We've got notes on what the city looks like, with notes on the local like factions of the city based off of our background notes, which if you guys are interested in where I would grab that, I would go to my world notes here, which you might have a book in the world that you're playing with. You might have made something similar to this if you have your own world. We're not kind of getting into the scope of that, but I've got this one area just on Lemoore as a quick reference. Boom, let's go there. And so now I've got like a page of notes just on the local factions. So easy to do. I also made up one of the leaders of the factions in my adversaries list. So I'd have a stack block for a special character, and I made sure that I have some stat blocks for like a generic Onyx guy and local town guards and local cyborg type robot dudes and goblins and stuff like that. So that way if my characters are going to start a fight and we need to go to this town center area, I could go to my generic stream friendly tokens, which I've gotten from artist Devin Knight, and I can grab up my Wooland or my Onyx or my Rat people here, and I can just throw them on the map. And then I've got my stat blocks all listed in my adversaries here. So I think we should be pretty set for our first session. So thank you for joining me with this, and I will look forward to seeing you on June 13th for our starter session. It'll be recorded and posted on YouTube, so if you don't have a chance to see it live, feel free to watch it afterward. Either way, if you have comments, I'll look forward to replying to you, and so will the players if you have specific character comments as well. All right, thank you very much, and I will be seeing you on the flip side.